What do you think about César Millán?
Okay, so I get this question a lot, and I have to say,
Bienvenidos a Barking the Truth, el podcast donde escucharás lo que realmente necesitas saber acerca de tu perro.
Bienvenidos a su podcast favorito latinoamericano. Hoy día vamos a estar conectados desde 4 países distintos. Por aquí desde Perú, Carlos Orí, desde Ecuador, Melissa Vélez, desde Chile, hoy día nos acompaña también Vani Vélez, y desde Estados Unidos tenemos un invitado, estamos pero de invitado especial en invitado especial. Hoy tenemos un hiper mega invitado especial que es Antonio Díaz. Antonio Díaz es un entrenador reconocido en Estados Unidos. Hemos tratado de coordinar esta entrevista desde hace un tiempo, nos ha dado la oportunidad de entrevistarlo. Creo que va a ser una conversación súper enriquecedora. Y Antonio Díaz, aparte de ser un súper entrenador, de trabajar con casos severos de agresión, de ansiedad, ahora nos va a poder contar un poco más de su trabajo. También es un entrenador que tiene un alcance súper grande en redes sociales. Y creo que eso también va a ser un buen tema, porque es una forma de poder llevar nuestro trabajo a más personas. Así que, sin más ni más, bienvenido, Antonio. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you? Thank you guys for having me on.
No, thank you for being here. We're super glad that you're here. Para los que nos escuchan, Antonio habla más inglés que español, entonces vamos a tratar en lo posible de traducir absolutamente todo lo que él diga en inglés. Él tiene la libertad completa de hablar inglés en todo nuestro episodio, ¿ya? Y nosotros nos vamos a encargar de que ustedes puedan, a los que nos escuchan, entender absolutamente todo lo que Antonio nos diga. Así que esperemos que disfruten este episodio, pues Antonio ha sido un invitado súper especial para nosotros. Welcome, Antonio.
Thank you.
Okay. So, vamos a iniciar con un tema que nos llama mucho la atención. A Antonio lo podemos encontrar en redes sociales como Leader of the Pack. Leader of the Pack is your company, right, Antonio?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. So, we plan to speak about leadership. Planeamos hablar sobre el liderazgo en los perros, que es una palabra que a veces tiene una connotación negativa actualmente. Antonio, leadership right now is a word that is like a bad word.
Yes,
for
very bad word.
Very bad word
Yeah.
for the training business. What are we talking about when we speak about leadership? That is our topic that we're going to go through and,
Yeah.
Vamos a desarrollarlo, ¿no? Acá en el episodio. Ok, yo creo que arrancamos con todas las preguntas que tenemos para Antonio.
Bien. Podemos desarrollar ese tema, ¿no? O sea, una de las cosas que queríamos hablar contigo, Antonio, era sobre el tema del liderazgo, porque como dice Meli, suele tener en la industria una connotación negativa. Y queremos que nos des tus opiniones o tus pensamientos acerca de la importancia del liderazgo en siendo dueño de perros, ¿no? Viviendo con perros. ¿Por qué es importante ejercer un liderazgo efectivo? Ahora vamos a poder desarrollar un poquito más del tema y de tus pensamientos acerca de esto.
Absolutely. So I think the first thing I like to say is that I help people understand what leadership is not. And leadership is not dominance theory. Has nothing to do with that. Leadership doesn't mean that we view the dog that they need to submit to us and that we need to dominate them. I like to compare leadership to being a parent or being a teacher. And just like raising a child, we want to help our children avoid mistakes, but also allow them the space to learn from their mistakes. And we have to balance those two. And we do so in a way where we want to guide them and we want to show them what's good for them while being able to correctly explain to them what doesn't work for them in an appropriate way. And that is where corrections come into play. But leadership is about guidance. It's about clear communication. It's about giving the space for the dog to learn correctly the things that work for them and the things that don't work for them. So I agree with you that leadership is kind of a bad word, but I think that that's a small, I'm realizing more and more that that's a small section of the industry, but they just have a very loud voice. Right. So it's a small group with a big mouth. And there's a lot of people that don't agree with, looking at leadership as a negative word. So, but I think it's important to continue to preach our message and what leadership really is and how it can change people's lives when they understand what that relationship and that dynamic looks like.
Yo creo que Bunny, tú que eres mamá ahorita, Bunny puede entender cómo va a ser ese liderazgo con su hijo, que es similar, it's kind of similar with dogs, of course, dogs and children are different, but Bunny, más o menos, ¿cuál es tu experiencia? O sea, como que tú, ¿cómo ves el tema del liderazgo? By the way, no hemos contado, Antonio and Bunny were classmates.
Yes.
Antonio y Bunny fueron compañeros en Starmark, se conocen hace bastante tiempo. Entonces, Bunny también
2016.
estuvo... Yeah, 2016, right? So, because they were classmates, porque fueron classmates, compañeros de curso, tienen, digamos, una misma formación. Bunny, ¿qué piensas acerca del liderazgo?
Miren, el liderazgo es algo que yo creo que nosotros también crecimos con eso, ¿ya? Porque hacia tus propios padres, si hablamos de niños, hacia tus propios padres tú los ves como un referente de confianza y de seguridad, ¿ya? Pero al mismo tiempo tú tienes cierto respeto, pero ese respeto no se basa por el miedo, sino se basa en el liderazgo, en el amor y en las cosas correctas, porque han tenido el tiempo y la paciencia de enseñarte cuál es el camino correcto y cuál es el camino incorrecto, que es lo que Antonio decía, de escoger cuál es lo correcto para ti, aprender de tus errores, y eso es algo que en los niños hoy se ve mucho, ¿ya? Miguelito todavía es un bebé muy chiquito, pero él ya tiene clases de estimulación a esta edad, y justo con la profesora congeniamos mucho, porque hablamos de cómo a los niños es importante mostrarles el mundo tal cual como es, y ayudarlos a entender cómo deben moverse, no tratar de tapar las cosas de una forma fácil, ¿no? Porque, por ejemplo, no sé, de repente si el niño te contesta mal y tú como no le dices nada o simplemente tratas como de, ya, dejarlo ahí o después como decirle, sí, te entiendo, así nomás, no es el camino, sino realmente conversarlo, enseñarle y a veces ciertas consecuencias, o sea, que no necesariamente las consecuencias tienen que verse como algo negativo, porque no lo son, sino simplemente son consecuencias a las acciones, que es lo que nos pasa a nosotros como adultos también hoy, en diferentes cosas, ¿no? Trabajo, relaciones, negocios, ¿no? Etcétera. Entonces, es algo que en verdad, si tú lo comparas entre perros y humanos, es lo mismo. O sea, todo se trata de liderazgo, de cómo respetar ese liderazgo, cómo canalizar tu conducta diaria para llevar una buena vida, ¿sabes? Y eso es lo importante. Y lo mismo lo vas a ver en los perros. Pero tú tienes que enseñarles. Tú tienes que enseñarles. No puedes esperar que esto aparezca así, pues, de la nada, ¿no?
Si me ven en la entrevista moviendo los labios, es porque estoy en mi cabeza pensando cómo voy a hacer la pregunta en inglés y la estoy ensayando, así que...
¿Qué quieres preguntar, Carlos?
What do you think about the only positive approach in training?
I think it's a really nice story and it makes me smile, but unfortunately it's just not realistic in dog training. You know, there are sides. Purely positive is really, it's just not true at all. You know, even in purely positive dog training, there's still the application of punishment. Yeah. So in and of itself, like it just, you know, it's just not true. And I think purely positive really means for some people that utilize that is, you know, never putting the dog in an uncomfortable place or never applying any type of discomfort to a dog. But that's really just an attempt to avoid training because it's a part of training and there's no other way around that. And anybody who really understands dogs understands that, you know, and again, it's just a small sect of people that, you know, the problem for me too with that is that they deny, they don't address the problem and they don't, they avoid the situations and they really don't help people. Those are the same clients that I come around and help because they need to understand how to use a correction, how to correctly implement punishment in dog training.
So, right. Luego relaciona un poco con el tema del leadership. ¿Por qué? Porque muchas veces el tema del purely positive juntan la idea de que no puede haber liderazgo en una relación con perros, o sea que eso es malo. Y esta parte, digamos que es complicada de comprender porque, claro, if I tell you, no, if you do this to your dog, you're being a bad person. Of course, you're going to think, I'm not going to be a leader of my dog because I'm going to be a bad person, right?
Yeah.
Pero lo conecto, Carlos, con lo que tú dices, justamente porque es lo que, por ejemplo, dice Antonio, que mucha gente son pocas en realidad, pero hablan muy fuerte sobre este tema. Y I think everybody is a leader of their dogs or become a leader of their dog to have a good relationship. It's impossible to not have leadership in a relationship with your own species or another species. In your job or anywhere else, there's a leadership, there's hierarchy. Yeah, that's a word. Yeah. So it's impossible to think that dogs do not have that. Solo que yo creo que la gente tiene por este tema justamente del pure positive, piensan que es algo malo, pero no tiene nada que ver con... Carlos, ¿querías hacer Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead, okay. ¿Quieres hacer otra pregunta?
Sí, de repente la puedes traducir tú.
Sí.
Y escuchar mejor para Antonio y para todos los que nos están escuchando. Antonio, ¿cómo crees tú que el uso de una corrección dentro de todo un proceso de entrenamiento, que incluye muchísimas más cosas obviamente, realmente afecta a los perros? Es decir, cuando nosotros corregimos a un perro de las distintas formas en las que hay para corregirlos de forma apropiada, ¿cómo es que esto afecta a los perros? ¿Realmente deteriora su autoestima? ¿Malogramos el vínculo? Cuéntanos un poco tus pensamientos acerca de esto, por favor.
No, the proper use of corrections and training can actually have really great benefits to the relationship because it teaches the dog boundaries. It helps the dog understand what isn't good for them and what they shouldn't be doing, which keeps them safe. And when corrections are applied correctly, like you said, there is a process to that. So, corrections are so complex, which is one of the reasons why on social media, I really don't talk about them or show them too much because it's very difficult to adequately explain to people in a broad sense, like what they should be doing because every dog is different. And I really mean that. And so that's the biggest thing to understand. And I think one of the things I will say that I agree with some of those people that I've spoken to on the purely positive side, and I have to agree with them, is that sometimes the improper use of corrections is shown on camera, social media, and people take that and they use it and they don't know what they're doing. And so they just assume that they should be correcting their dogs when they actually shouldn't be correcting their dogs. Their dogs need something different. And so I respect that position. And I think that it's important to approach the subject of corrections with caution and with people's and their dog's safety in mind. And that's kind of difficult to do sometimes, So with that said, the proper use of corrections it's amazing, and it's really what teaches the dogs what not to do, and I know we've heard that before, and that's really a small portion of what they should be learning, but it's a huge part of training, and it's very beneficial when done correctly.
Right. Vani, ¿te acuerdas que una vez hablamos de eso, de que Antonio enseña mucho en sus redes sociales de lo que hace realmente? Y a veces, Vani, hablábamos de que se enseñara una corrección o no. We're usually shy about it because we don't know how people are going to take it. Yeah. And in that specific case, maybe it's the correct thing to do, but, it's that dog.
And there's a lot of context surrounding it that isn't really explained, that can't necessarily be explained. It's a long story, you know what I mean? There's so much to it. So, which is why I love what we do, but when it comes to giving that information, it can be kind of, and unfortunately there are a lot of trainers which I'm not going to name any names, but I'm sure Vanessa and I have had conversations where they use punishment as a way to basically draw crowds. You know what I'm saying? And so it's done in an unhealthy way where it paints a bad image on what corrections should be.
I know. I know.
You know what I mean?
I know what you mean.
Antonio, what do you think about César Millán?
Okay, so I get this question a lot, and I have to say, I don't have any problems with César Millán. I think that for the time when he was doing what he was doing on television, I think for what it was, I think it served its purpose. As somebody who has a little bit of knowledge about how television works and production of television shows, I understand that the producers were intentionally creating this dramatic effect, which they were provoking dogs, and I've seen that. As far as him as an individual, I don't really know him that well. I think that I will say this on a positive note. There are a couple of things. I'll give my pros and cons. On a positive note, I think he brought a large attention to dog training. And I think that he's also a contributor to why people started to see the differences in the use of positive reinforcement and the use of punishment and things like that. And then now you have this balanced trainer, right? If it wasn't for him and then the people that were shouting against him, right, we wouldn't really have what we have now. I think he brought a lot of attention to dog training, and I think that's amazing. On the other end, I think at the time, I don't know about what he does now because I really don't follow anybody else, but I think that at the time he was misguiding people with dominance and painting dogs as either needing to be or needing to be submissive, and that they were either dominant or submissive, because that's not at all the way that dogs are. So I don't dislike him or anything like that. And it's funny because people compare me to him. Like, I've had people say things to me like, oh, you're like the next Cesar Millan, or hey, you're like the dog whisperer. Or here's the funny thing, I've had people compare me to Cesar Millan in a positive way, and I've had people compare me to Cesar Millan in a negative way. Yeah, and so it's just funny. It's just the perspective of the individual, you know what I mean? And so for me, I look at him like somebody who really helped shine a light on dog training. And for that, I'm grateful, because I feel like that's part of why I do what I do now. And, but I also feel like it's my duty as somebody who's now in this profession and somebody who has a voice to start to show people the truth, the reality of what a relationship looks like, and how we can effectively grow that, and we can still be leaders without the negativity that surrounds leadership. You know what I'm saying? So, so for that, like, I'll say thank you to Cesar Millan. So, because it really puts me on a mission to help spread the word about real.
Claro. Yeah. Right.
So,
maybe some people tell you train like Cesar Millan, so you do the alpha row.
Yeah, no, I don't do the alpha row.
Yeah,
I
claro.
do make I do that. My father being that's a Hispanic thing. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. My father, whenever he wanted you to stop talking, hey, right? So if I do that, that's not a Cesar Millan thing. That's Antonio Díaz.
I saw your explanation about the pet corrector.
Oh yeah, Cesar Millan.
How did you live with Cesar Millan?
When I was playing around with that thing and I first heard it, it just reminded me of watching The Dog Whisperer back in the day.
Yeah,
So I like to add a little bit of my humor into my videos sometimes.
Yeah.
So that wasn't like a low blow at him. That was just me cracking a joke. So
okay.
Yeah.
Creo que igual lo han de relacionar a él con Cesar Millan por la palabra líder también.
I had a discussion with somebody who purely positive trainer, and he's told me that he told me, he was like, I hate your name, right? We were having a conversation. I'm like, why? He said, because, right? He goes, because, because of the way he thinks that what it means, right? And I said, but it doesn't mean that. It's not about that. He goes, I know. And I said, well, let me ask you a question. Let me make some sense out of this. I said, what do you call a group of dogs? He said, a pack. I'm like, okay, that's what you call them, right? And I want to be the teacher, the guiding force of that pack. So I am the leader of the pack. Like, it makes sense. I want to be a leader, and they're a pack of dogs. So it has nothing to do with, alpha roles and anything like that. So
I always explain that to people. Creo, Carlos, tú también lo vas a explicar de alguna forma. Iván, y tú también. When I talk about leadership, it's like, I have a boss in my job, in my office, that is a really nice person, that is always like super fun and super good with their employees and everything, but he's a leader. O sea, in the end, mi jefe es mi líder. He's the one that says what I have to do. That's it.
Your mom is.
Your mom.
I mean,
teachers.
Teachers también.
Earlier, I heard Vanessa say that, Vanessa, I heard you say that I believe you said that like humans and dogs are a lot alike, and I think you were referring to behaviorally because you were talking about your kids or your child, right? And so I compare kids to dogs all the time, and I use them to help people understand that just like when you're raising a child, you want to teach them to say please and to say thank you. It's the same way you want to raise your dog to sit before they get petted, right? Rather than jumping. Or to ask permission to go to their friend's house, right? You want your kid. You don't want your kid just walking out of the door. So you want to teach them there's a boundary. You can't just walk out of the front door and go to the neighbor's house just because you're friends. Same thing with a dog. Just because they hang out with the neighbor's dog next door doesn't mean they can run out of the front door whenever it's open. So it's our responsibility to provide that information to the dog, and that's done through leadership, right? Because if you're not leading, then what are they learning from you if you're not intentionally leading them? You know what I'm saying? So
the people forget that we include animals with predatory behaviors in a human lifestyle, and the dogs need some guidance of us.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Right, sí, la gente se olvida de que tenemos un depredador en la casa, o sea, realmente es un animal domesticado. Dogs are domesticated and everything. Yeah, pero es un animal en una sociedad humana. Yeah, so they need guidance because they are not supposed to live in a house. I mean, like, es una responsabilidad de nosotros criar a un perro de esa manera.
Vani, ¿le quieres hacer alguna pregunta, Antonio, que tengas en la mente?
Ahorita, sí. Antonio, how do you deal with difficult clients? Like, for example, clients that do not want to, I don't know, use a tool, or, for example, do not follow what you're saying. They try to, like, make a mess with information that you're giving to them. You know what I mean? Like, like when you have this first evaluation or consultation and they just try to mess up, like, with your information, they mix up words and if, for example, if you explain, look, with your dog we have to do this, and they just, like, try to debate what you are suggesting because you're the professional there. Okay. They just try to do something different, or tell you something different. So how do you deal with this?
Okay, this is probably going to surprise you.
This is a very interesting question because now we have 4 countries here, and cultural things are different in every country. Right. So your experience in the U.S. it's going to be, like, a good information for everybody.
Okay, this is probably going to surprise you, but I don't get a lot of debating from my clients. One of the reasons why, I think, is because of the way that I approach the situation. So if I feel like a prong collar is going to be a good choice for the dog, I always ask them, how do you feel about a prong collar? Are you familiar with them? And I wait to see what they say. And sometimes if someone says, I don't want to use a prong collar, I say, I respect that. I said, well, what if I told you that you could really, if you give me the opportunity to demonstrate how we'll use it and you're comfortable with it, would you consider using one? And they would say, yes. So I think that for me, when I'm working with somebody, the first thing I want them to understand is that they're never going to be forced to use anything that they don't want to use. And I have my own training tools, so I can show them how we'll use it and what it will look like on their dog and how their dog will respond before they ever commit to it. The only thing that I ask them is that they trust me enough to give me the opportunity to show them. And if they still say no problem. But I'm going to explain to them how, without the use of that tool, this is what training is going to look like, which doesn't necessarily, not that anything guarantees a result, but I'll explain to them the potential difficulties that they're going to have and, things like that.
Antonio, do you use your personal dogs for show those people how looks dogs?
So yes and no. I use my dog. I don't use my dogs to show people what I can accomplish for them through obedience. So I don't take my dog out and do heel and
like a demo
or whatever. Yeah, I don't do that. And not for any particular reason. I just never felt like I had to. Here's the thing. I've never tried to sell myself. I've never tried to convince anybody that they should hire me. And I think that because I never wanted to feel that type of pressure, like I had to convince them, I sold them on myself, and now I got to prove who I am. Like, I don't want that kind of pressure. And I put enough pressure on myself, so I don't need any more pressure. You know what I mean? So I'm good on that. So I do use my dogs. I do use my personal dogs to help me with clients, with reactive dogs. And I think, for example, when I take my dogs out of the van and I walk down the street and I put them in a sit and I walk 20 feet away and I work with their dog and my dog's sitting there, I think that is enough for people to go, yeah, I think I made the right choice with this guy.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's unintentional, but it's, that's in a way, I think, a demo for them to see what my dogs can do, especially in a situation where the dog is reactive. So, but I use my dogs a lot to help nervous dogs and to help my clients with their reactive dogs. Because sometimes there are no dogs around, you know what I mean? And so I'm like, let me.
Yeah, so
you
need an assistant, you know.
Claro, nosotros hacemos, claro, sí.
Yeah, I do the same.
Yeah, you do the same. Yeah, like showing off is como, right, not so much, but to help us with the class or the session, that's like super cool.
Y eso, quiero solo, para cerrar, o sea, me refería un poco más a si le muestra o si usas a tus perros para mostrarle a tus clientes cómo es que perros comunes como ellos pueden usar herramientas como prong collar y collar.
Okay, yeah.
No, I think, again, when I offer people the ability to see what it would, how I would use it and without any obligation, I think that gives them the space to make their decision and not feel like it's set in stone, like it's yes or no. Are we going to use an e-collar or not? I need to know. It's not like that. It's like, if you don't want to use an e-collar, that's fine, right? But it's going to take longer. And I'm telling you, as somebody who does this, that it could really help. And if you give me like the opportunity to show you, then I think you'll see for yourself. And and I always tell people, anytime I use corrections, I always say, if you're ever uncomfortable with something I'm doing, please tell me. Just tell me. All you have to say is, hey, I'm not really feeling this. That's it. And I'll stop. Because I do understand that one thing we deal with as trainers, and I know is we have to deal with the emotional side of people. Like they're the dogs are their babies, and it's like, I'm going to put this prong collar on your dog and make them stop barking. Like, you know what I mean? What are you going to do? So all I just ask is like, and I just try to do my best to explain to people what's going on with the dog and why we are applying any type of correction.
Right.
Tengo una pregunta más para Antonio. Hay una conversación también bien frecuente entre los entrenadores y dueños y la industria en general acerca de si afecta o no, o cómo afecta las razas en los comportamientos de los perros. ¿Cuáles son tus pensamientos acerca de esto? Es decir, la raza del perro, ¿qué tanto influye en el comportamiento de los perros con los que vivimos? ¿Influye o no? ¿Qué piensas acerca de esto?
I think that I would say, in all honesty, my approach to any dog and their breed, I rarely look at a dog and go, if they're a certain breed, they're going to do a certain thing or act a certain way. I think there are breed tendencies, right? So if you tell me that you have a blue heeler and they're running around nipping at your children, I'm going to go, that makes sense, right? It's a blue heeler, I can understand that. But that doesn't mean that a golden doodle is not going to be doing the same thing, So my opinion, what do I think about it? I think that people play that card too much in the dog training industry. Like, this breed and this is why, and it's like, they have tendencies, in a lot of cases, but like, for example, I have people reach out to me all the time about golden retrievers that are biting kids or people. Or that are showing resource guarding, and that's not a breed tendency, but it is from my experience. So it's, you know, and like, again, people tend to go, oh, if it's a German Shepherd, they're going to be aggressive, or if it's a pit bull, they're going to be aggressive. And it's like, that's not true. I meet a lot of pit bulls that aren't aggressive. I meet some that are. I meet German Shepherds that are aggressive and some that aren't. So in my experience, I think it's healthy to be familiar with a breed, just in case there are some behaviors that flow into their genetics. Because then you know that you're dealing with genetics potentially and not just a behavioral issue. But it's not that I just slap a label on any dog because of their breed. I think that's the thing with dog training. It's so complex. You're talking about a living, breathing being with its own motives and experiences, and you're trying to figure out what's going on with them, and you can't even have a conversation. I mean, we can't even figure out what's going on with each other, and we can speak the same language. You know what I'm saying? Like, right? So you try to tell me about your experiences of life and why you do the things you do, Melissa. Vanessa, tell me about your experiences and why you do what you do. It's like, damn, that's so complex. So
a lot of people don't actually read the study. They just read the article, the magazine article, you know?
Gotcha.
Yeah, but it says that we already knew this, actually. Like, breed doesn't explain personality. Like,
exactly.
You know, there are a lot. Right now, I'm training. Ahorita estoy entrenando una pitbull. I'm training a pitbull right now, a female pitbull. She's like the sweetest dog in the world. You know, the sweetest dog in the world.
I believe it.
Yeah. So it's like, what do you say about that? ¿Cómo decir sobre esto? Si we already know this, right?
I had a border collie, and I'm so mad that I never got this on camera, but it didn't happen. But long story short, I had to put bike gloves on, and I talked myself into putting bike gloves on because something inside my brain was like, put your bike gloves on. Thank God I did, because I go to the house and this freaking border collie latches on to my arm, and it's the strongest, most aggressive bite I've ever experienced from this border collie, like a 45-pound dog. And I have 2 scars on my arm with a bite glove on from the pressure that this dog put on my arm. And I'll never look at border collies the same because of that, because I did not expect that. And that just showed me, though, that number one, and not that I thought that I was like, you know, the expert, whatever, but I'm always learning, and it's like, okay, duly noted, and now I get it. Border collies, gotcha. Can't trust anybody. You know what I mean?
You know, Carlos, tú tienes algunos border collies en tu escuela. Carlos,
justo lo que acaba de decir Antonio me ha hecho acordar a una de las últimas experiencias que hemos tenido con un border collie. Yo recibo en Dog Balance, donde soy head trainer, seguido esta raza, y hace poco nomás tuvimos un incidente que pudo terminar en tragedia porque uno de los border collie con los que estábamos trabajando por 1 centímetro no mordió en la cara, no le quitó un pedazo de nariz a uno de nuestros trainers. Pero es verdad lo que dice Antonio, las razas siempre tenemos que tener en cuenta las tendencias que tiene, pero no es una sentencia para el perro, ¿no? No es que define quién va a ser el perro, la personalidad, el temperamento, porque hay otras variables biológicas, sociales que incluyen o que influyen en el desarrollo del perro. Antonio, this is an important question for a dog trainer. How do you become a dog trainer?
Oh, that's a good question. How?
a basic.
I mean, I feel like there's a lot of different ways to become a dog trainer. What's the right way, though? I think that's the real question. What's the right way to become a dog trainer?
Yeah,
I would say go to school, a school that you can be hands-on with a dog, and go to a good school, right, that you choose. And then when you come out of school, I think it's really important to work with shelter dogs and take them in and work with them, because number one, you're going to learn so much about dogs being hands-on. And number two, you can help a dog, you know, you can use them to learn and develop your craft while you help them also find a better home and live a better life. So, but yeah, going to school and reading a lot of books. I have a lot of books over here that I have. Let me see. Can you guys see? Yeah, like I have a ton of books, and a lot of them are all dog training books. And even though there might be like purely positive books, I still read them because I love getting just different ways to think about dealing with behavior. And so I know how to use corrections. So I always have that in the background if I need to apply it. And I'm interested in learning other ways of dealing with problems as well. So learning, constant learning, and go to school for sure.
Okay, right. That's a very good advice. And also, right now that you're talking about, like, you read a lot of stuff, including things that you usually don't agree with, like whole, you know, we usually don't have like a real school for dog trainers. At least in Ecuador, there's none, you know, but maybe other countries in Latin America do have
You guys should start your own school.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you know, but Carlo already has one. He's the head trainer.
Oh, no way.
In Lima, Peru.
You train trainers.
Yes.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool. Good, congratulations.
He does board and train. Yeah, his school is amazing. I want to go to visit him sometime. We want to go to visit him sometime.
Let me know when. I might have to make a trip down there.
Yes, tenemos que hacer una reunión en Perú de todas maneras.
We're always talking about going to Peru to Carlos' school.
But Antonio has been in Peru. You have been in Peru, right?
Yeah.
You went to Cusco, right?
I've flown into Cusco and then flew out.
I remember you told me.
Yeah. My trip to Peru is why I'm a dog trainer.
Wow.
It's deep. Well, I mean, there's more reasons than that, but that's one of the main ones.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Nice story. So I was thinking about this because you're so open to different strategies, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we said before, I said before that we had this small topic about showing the real stuff that you do in social media, which is something difficult for a lot of people. You're open to all of the strategies available, but we feel that sometimes the other side is not so open about stuff, right? Not so.
That's an understatement.
Right. So very close to other ways of thinking. Still, how do you manage to do that, right? Because, for example, for me, it's super difficult sometimes to show what I do. I mean, you know, completely, because I know people are a little crazy, you know?
I'll give you the short answer and then you can translate that and then I'll speak more on it.
Okay.
I imagine the people hating or talking crap to be like the most lonely, sad person sitting in their basement in their underwear, mad at me because I have the courage to be on camera and speak truthfully. So
me acuerdo de South Park. Hay una imagen de South. I don't know if you know the South Park guy. Like,
that's a good example. That's who's in my comments telling me my dogs need to be on a leash. Okay. Whatever. Okay.
Yeah, right. I saw that.
I'm abusing dogs because I use prong collars. Okay. Whatever.
Yeah, right.
In all honesty, it's been an opportunity for me to grow as a man, as a person, as a trainer, and what I do, and become more comfortable and confident in what my message is and what I want people to understand about dog training. Whenever I'm training, I do have those people in the back of my mind, and I will say that it has allowed me in a positive way to be a little bit more aware of the question, do I need to be correcting the dog right now? Is there another way that I could help them without having to correct them? And that is healthy, I think. And that's not a bad thing. You know what I mean? If I can avoid correcting a dog and reasonably, right? And I'm not saying like now we're going to jump through 50 hoops just so we don't offend the dog, you know, but like it does, I think for me, it has provided, a little bit more criticism of myself and just to make sure that I'm doing the right thing by the dog and by the owner. And that's the thing. We have to manage the dog and the owner. And so there's a lot of times where I'll use a prong where it's not for the dog, it's for the owner because they can't handle the dog on a slip leash. I could, they can't, you know what I mean? So but as far as like, you know, dealing with people, man, I've just really had to accept the fact that people are going to be mad at me and they're going to be mad at you and you, regardless of how much in your heart you're genuinely trying to help that dog or those people. because I actually had a comment the other day. My wife read it to me. She found it and she was like, "You got to listen to this." And I'll say it so that you guys can, you can translate. Basically, they said they were mad because this is not a lie. They were mad because I was giving free information, but not able to take on any clients because I was booked. That's why they were mad.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Let that sink in. They were mad because I was giving free information, which basically drew them to me, but I'm too busy to take clients. So their comment was, "Why are you out here giving this free information if you can't even take on clients?" What? Yeah. So that just proves
people
are hating on everything, right?
Everything.
People have too much free time. I don't understand.
That there's a lot to it. I also think that for some trainers, they're mad that they want the courage to be on camera and put their stuff out. I don't know, because I know that I struggled before. I've been making videos consistently for a year, and it took a lot for me to get to the point where I was making videos consistently, because I was very critical of myself. I didn't know. My message has become more clear, I think, over time, because I'm finding my flow, I'm finding a wave, I'm feeling my voice. You know what I mean? So that's something that you grow into, and the haters are going to be there. One of the first videos I ever posted that went, I would say, viral, it had gotten like over 1 million views. It was me teaching. It was me saying, one of the reasons why your dog cuts in front of you is because you're feeding them from the opposite side. And this person was telling me, they're like, nobody needs to use food to train a dog. So now we get hate from the other side.
Yeah,
you don't need to use food to train a dog. You're bribing them. What? So that was one of the first, not the first comment, but that was like a video that really did well. But here I have people telling me that I'm wrong for using food to begin with. And it's kind of like, yeah, you really just learn that you cannot please everybody or anybody. And so I don't really make the videos to make people happy. I make them so that I can help people with issues that I see people need help with. And they help people. So there's going to be haters regardless,
Right. Bunny, últimamente hemos estado hablando, Carlos, también con el tema de la gente, cómo comenta cosas. Y realmente no se puede, como dice Antonio, no se puede complacer a todo el mundo.
Complacer a todos.
No se puede.
Yes. Antonio, if I asked you what is the most important tool in dog training, what do you think about that?
Wow, I like that question. I've never been asked that before. Let me think. The most important tool in dog training. I would have to say your attitude.
Right.
That would be my answer, your attitude. Because if you have a bad attitude, there's no way your message is going to be delivered the way you want, the way it should be to your dog. So the first most important thing that you've got to have when you work with your dog is a good attitude. That would be my answer.
That's what I say to my clients all the time. Like, this is an attitude thing,
Yeah.
like an attitude work. Because sometimes you think that something is difficult, but when you put all the attitude, you can accomplish things,
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
Justamente porque sabía que su respuesta iba a ir por ahí, no pensé que me iba a especificar una herramienta en específico, a decirme el prong collar, el sleep. Hay muchas personas que piensan que nuestro entrenamiento, los resultados se basan en el tipo de herramienta que usamos, ¿no? Y que esas herramientas vuelven el entrenamiento fácil, sencillo y rápido. Y eso es una mentira, pero completa. Y sabía que su respuesta iba a ir por ahí, ¿no? Por algo distinto a una herramienta física. Y creo que todos estamos de acuerdo, que es la actitud, sobre todo cuando trabajamos con perros difíciles, ¿no? La actitud, las ganas, la predisposición, hacer la diferencia para sacarlos adelante.
And the dog is going to pick up on that because you're being an ass to them,
Yeah, right,
because
right.
everything they do is frustrating.
Right.
So
Antonio,
I tell people attitude is everything. Yes.
Antonio, you have a reel about let dogs be dogs.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, I love that statement. Let dogs be dogs. Those are the comments I got. Just let them be dogs. Let them eat. Let them run. Okay. Sure, you got it. You got it.
Sí, justo, ay, porque se lo traduzcas, Meli, justo te hacía esta pregunta, porque detrás de esta frase hay un pensamiento súper interesante, ¿no? Hemos hablado de liderazgo y de cómo algunas personas se rehúsan a establecer una relación en la que ejerzan liderazgo sobre sus perros por temor a tener una relación en la que los repriman, en la que destruyan su autoestima. Y esta frase lo que hace muchas veces es justificar el no querer hacer esto por dejar ser perros a los perros. Right. Entonces, este reel que vi de Antonio era bien interesante porque él daba algunos ejemplos, de repente si se acuerda los puede contar, acerca de por qué no en todos los casos esto es así, ¿no? No podemos dejar a los perros ser perros, sobre todo viviendo en el tipo de sociedad en la que los incluimos.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's unrealistic. So, like in that video, I say, let dogs be dogs, fine. Let your dog poop and pee in the house, right? They're just being dogs. Let them eat their own dog poop. They're just being dogs. Let them bite your kid in the face. That's what dogs do. Right. You know, these are things that dogs do. So it's not let dogs be dogs. It's let dogs be dogs when it's convenient for you. And so for anybody that wants to have a good relationship, healthy relationship with their dog, then they can't just let dogs be dogs. They have to create structure and boundaries. And then within those parameters, we can let dogs be dogs. Just like we wouldn't say, you can say, yeah, let kids be kids, but we also have to teach the kids they can't run into the middle of the street, right? Kids like to run, but we got to teach them the boundary. Kids like to, throw the ball. Well, we got to teach them you can't throw it at your friend's face. That's not okay. So kids are just being kids when they're doing things, but we also have to teach them boundaries. So we would, so yes, let kids be kids, but within reason. So yes, let dogs be dogs, but within reason. And so this idea of just letting dogs run around and just do this and just let them on the furniture, just let them be dogs. It's like, no, there should be boundaries.
Pero por ejemplo, tocando este tema, y algo que Antonio y yo aprendimos mucho en la escuela y siempre nuestros instructores nos lo decían, que a los perros hay que darles momentos para ser perros y en un ambiente seguro, ¿ya? Y él y yo teníamos un profesor que se llamaba Kyle y él ahí me contaba que, por ejemplo, los domingos, sus perros eran súper entrenados y los seguían a todas partes y eran como unos robots, ¿ya? Pero los domingos él me contaba que era un día de no entrenamiento y los llevaba al lago y los dejaba que se ensucien, que jueguen, que estén en el lodo. A lo mejor si alguno por ahí cazaba algún animal, bueno, ya, pues está en un ambiente abierto, o sea, como que en realidad te les daba un momento para disfrutarse a ellos mismos, ¿no? Porque tampoco te puedes olvidar de su naturaleza, pero como les digo, o sea, es un ambiente controlado, no es como que, lo dejé libre en la calle y que vaya a ladrarle al perro al lado, ataque al de acá, o etcétera, ¿no? Entonces, ahí hay una diferencia, y eso es algo que igual es bueno para los perros, como les decía, en un ambiente controlado, que sean perros, que se ensucien, que disfruten, que naden, que jueguen, pero siempre dentro de los boundaries, o sea, de los límites.
Right. Agreed. And that's the same thing for me and my dogs. We go to the park, it's like run around, have fun. Part of that freedom is because I know when I call them, they'll come to me. I know when I tell them down and another dog's walking by, they're not going to go anywhere. So, but that comes after the rules and the boundaries and the understanding. Just like kids,
Exactamente.
So it's so important. But, again, some people think that putting those restrictions on their dogs is mean or cruel or anything like that. And when I get those kinds of people, I try to paint them the picture and help them understand. And I like to use kids as an example. And it makes a lot of sense to people when I use children as an example because, we would never let our kid just run around without having first taught them that when we call them, they need to stop running and they need to come back to us, And so there's nothing wrong with that, except we can't speak to dogs. We have to show them physically, you know what I mean? And that's the difference.
Claro, sí. Es que en realidad no hay cómo enseñar al perro, al menos que sea por una guía física, por de correas. Es algo de sentido común que toca enseñarle a un perro a hacer algo para que sea más libre. I mean, usually freedom comes with like responsibility somehow. Absolutely. So dogs, we're responsible for them, but that training gives them freedom. O sea, el entrenamiento les da libertad para ser como que perros en sus momentos.
Antonio,
Yes.
could you tell us about the most difficult case that you take it?
Ooh, yeah, I'd love to. Let me think about it. What is the most difficult case?
We know that you work with difficult cases.
I would say one of the most difficult cases I had, I don't even remember the breed. There was two. One of them was a terrier mix. Her name was Honey, and then the other one, his name was Sebastian, and I forget his breed. Sebastian came from a hoarding situation, and he had no human interaction from a young age. And Honey they believe she was abused by a man or men or something to that effect. And I believe that she was abused, that her trauma happened at a very young age. The reason why they were the most difficult for me was because I made like little to no progress with them, and they were just extremely fearful. And granted, I didn't have a ton of time to work with them, so maybe that's part of the reason. But it was sad to see how fearful these dogs were. But I think that the reason for that too was because their trauma happened at a very young age.
Right.
And so it's a lot more difficult to come past that when it happens at such a young age. So for the dogs, those would be my two most difficult, in that I really didn't see the amount of progress that I would have liked to see.
Hemos hablado un poco acerca de los haters en las redes sociales, pero la realidad es que en comparación a la cantidad de personas que te siguen, la diferencia es abrumadora, ¿no? O sea, las personas que siguen tu cuenta, que les gusta tu contenido, es 1000 veces mayor a las personas que no les gusta. ¿Por qué crees que tienes este éxito en las redes sociales? ¿Qué crees que hace que hayas creado este engagement con las personas para que te sigan y les guste tu contenido?
Well, I guess I would have to base that on the messages that I've gotten from people and some of the comments that I read from people that follow me and compliment me, which I'm super grateful for. I think it's because of the way that I explain things. A common message I get is, apart from people thanking me for the videos that I make, they'll say, I love the way you explain things and the way that you explain the reasons why. Like, you just don't say you need to do this or you shouldn't do that. Like, you explain why. And I think that that's the reason why. And I think from my own perspective, I genuinely try to make videos that are informative and help people. So I'm not necessarily, I want people to follow me, but I really try to make videos that are going to be like, hey, this is something that I work with my clients. That's like, it's a little detail that'll really make a big difference. You know what I mean? And that's kind of my approach. So, and I think because I have that approach and I'm not out here just trying to make trash, like clickbait videos, you know what I mean? So I think that's a part of it.
I think it has something to do too with Bunny. Creo también que alguna vez conversamos esto. Y creo, Carlos, que tú también lo puedes ver. People are not stupid. I mean, they want to know why. I mean, you know, like right now we have a lot of people that usually post a lot of stuff, but they show nothing.
Yeah.
You know?
You learn nothing from it. It's like,
so you just read it and it's like, oh wow, good information, but it's not real, you know? Yeah. So it's like people are not stupid. Carlos usually says like, why do you think people are stupid? That they won't know if I'm mistreating the dog. Like they're there, you know?
Yeah.
So people want to know why things work, you know? And they are applied in the real life scenarios. O sea, que las cosas suceden en un escenario real de la vida y que no necesariamente es un post bonito de Instagram. Que no te enseña nada, ¿no?
Sí, eso es cierto. Y sí se me escucha, ¿no? Porque por aquí se cortó.
Sí.
Es normal que las personas tengan dudas acerca del entrenamiento, de cómo el entrenamiento y todo lo que incluye puede afectar a sus perros, pero los que más conocen a sus perros son los dueños, ¿no? A mí me ocurre seguido que cuando llegan a Dog Balance perros y les mandamos los videos a sus dueños, los dueños ven a su perro y dicen, mi perro está feliz. Veo que el entrenador lo está llamando y yo sé cuando mi perro está feliz. Yo noto cuando mi perro está feliz. Y cuando está yendo hacia el entrenador mientras lo llama, cuando está haciendo una sesión de juego, cuando están practicando obediencia, cuando están caminando por la calle, se le ve feliz y calmado. Entonces, a veces no se necesita tanta ciencia para investigar los procesos fisiológicos y qué es lo que ocurre en el momento exacto, los niveles de cortisol o el estrés del perro. A veces, el que más conoce a su dueño es el dueño y para él es más fácil saber en qué estado emocional se encuentra, ¿no? Así que...
Right.
Yeah, that's a big part of it. People, but I've also had dogs that don't like me because for that dog,
yeah, of course,
I'm the guy who comes over and makes them do all these things, and their owners are still super soft with them. And so there are some dogs like that too, which it's fine. But I agree with you that for the majority of dogs, they always, you can see it in them, you know, their owners know.
I live it with my own dog. I mean, my border collie doesn't like to do obedience.
Right.
But she still follows. Yeah, she doesn't like it. Aria doesn't like it.
So we're gonna finish right now. We're gonna close the episode.
Sure.
Carlos gonna make
last question, short. 2 books that you recommended?
Okay, give me a sec. I have one right off the top of my head, for sure. All right, I got this one. And
are you gonna show how dogs learn?
no.
Oh,
no,
that was the one.
Nah, that's a good book though, but I feel like
no, it's too complex. It's too complex.
Yeah, it is. I mean, you really have to it's scientific, you know.
Yeah. Remember when I didn't understand those words in English?
Yeah.
Vanessa called me.
That's so funny.
Manny's explained this to me.
I'm gonna give 3 recommendations.
Right.
Yes. Okay, so the first one is called Behavior Problems in Dogs by William Campbell. Vanessa, he was one of the guys on the list for the trainers. I think that he does a really good job at explaining different ways to deal with problem behaviors that don't involve corrections. And here's what I want to say real quick about corrections and why I like to read books like this, because I already know how to give a dog a correction. I know the importance of timing. I would never correct a dog for not doing it down if I haven't effectively taught them down, right? I understand that, right? So when it comes to corrections, you really have to understand timing. Is it appropriate? And from there, escalation of the punishment, right? We need a stronger punisher or we need to take it down a notch. And that's pretty simple. Although, punishment is complex, but it can be simplified. This book, in my opinion, just gives so many great examples of ways to deal with problems without the use of corrections. And it really makes you think outside of the box. And I really like this book because of that. The second book that I would recommend is called Canine Behavior. And the reason why is because it gives a huge breakdown of all these behaviors that, let me see if I can find a couple of examples, but like pictures of wolves and dogs. And it explains literally every single, like breaks down.
Wow. Specific.
The face and everything, right?
Everything. So it's like, I mean, I can't say enough about this book, the pictures, and it explains behavior and what they've seen, like the causes of certain behaviors. And, it's just everything is so connected. And it's just really, really interesting to see that. And then the last one I would recommend, the bonus, is The Forever Dog.
Yes, this really good.
It's such an amazing book. It talks about how I like Dr. Karen Becker. I've been following her since Star Mark. Because what's that?
And Rodney Habib.
Yeah, Rodney Habib. Sorry, Rodney, I didn't mean to leave you out there. But yes, Rodney Habib. So, but it's a great book because it talks about the fact that dogs can live into their 20s and 30s if you take care of them and give them a good life and feed them a good natural species appropriate diet. And who doesn't want a dog that lives longer? You know what I'm saying? So any person or trainer can benefit from this book.
Antonio, actually, that question, it wasn't for the people. It was for us.
Oh, okay. Listen, I'll give you my whole library. I'll show you every book.
I'm gonna just put in my Amazon,
Yes.
card, all the books.
Here's a book that I was excited about, but I feel like was overrated. There's two actually. I'll show you.
A ver, veamos los libros que nos recomienda Antonio.
Oh wait, no, I got another book. No, sorry, I got to add another one. The Human
You
Habit.
love that book.
I like that
love
one.
this book.
I like that one. I read it.
It's so good.
I bought that book because of you.
I remember I read it in school and I was like, guys, this thing.
And I bought it.
Yeah. So the two books that I would say I was disappointed in, the first one, I read them in order. I'll tell you in the order that I read them. How Dogs Think. There's a couple of good things here. But honestly, I was just really disappointed.
Who's the author of that book?
Stanley Coren.
En las redes sociales.
Because the name is similar to another one. The name is very similar to another book that I thought it was that one.
No, but that's How Dogs Learn. That's a different one.
No. There's another book that is really good. That it's How Dogs Think, See, Smell, something like that. It's a really long title.
Well, here, look. Well, this is just some of the stuff you're going to read in these books. It says, Why Punishment Fails.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's not why I don't like it. All these books have something commenting on that. But what I don't like about it is that this guy just kind of goes off here and there about just, I don't know. It was like, I remember reading it and I'm like, why am I even reading this? Why are we not getting to the point? Like, I want to know how dogs think. I don't want to hear the stories about your Mary Beth cousin, and I don't know. This is weird. And then the other book that I was kind of disappointed in was Don't Shoot the Dog.
Really?
Right? Yeah, by Karen Pryor, because again, I feel like she kind of goes off in situations and I'm like, I don't want this information. I want more dog. You know what I mean? It's not, and I think she tries to make it relatable to people. But for me, it was like jargon. It was filler information. And I'm like, I don't need this. I could have done without reading that entire half of the chapter if you would have just ended it there and kept it to the point. So I like books that are to the point. And I think that, for example, this book is to the point. This book is great regardless. And then this book is definitely to the point. Like you get the information, you know what I'm saying? So
al carrito de Amazon ahorita.
Así que ya saben, todos los entrenadores que están en formación o los dueños que quieren profundizar o ampliar sus conocimientos sobre el entrenamiento de perros, estos libros que ha recomendado Antonio, los primeros que los vamos a comprar somos nosotros, que no tenemos todos los que ha mostrado, y bueno, para todos los interesados, la mayoría los pueden encontrar pues a través de Amazon, ¿no? Acá en Perú es difícil encontrar esos libros.
Acá tampoco, aquí no existen.
I didn't get any of these books at the library. I got them all on Amazon.
Online, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Ciérralo, Melissa.
Okay, bueno. Antonio, I think a lot of people know you. By the time they have seen this, they already looked into your Instagram page or you're like a super famous trainer right now. So, but anyway, they can find you in at Leader of the Pack, right?
Yeah, at Leader of the Pack LV for Las Vegas.
LV, all right. LV in Instagram, right?
Instagram and TikTok if they're on TikTok.
And TikTok. Ok, lo pueden encontrar a Antonio en Instagram como Leader of the Pack. Ya está escrito en inglés, lo vamos a poner en la descripción del video. LV, o sea, de Las Vegas. Sí. Leader of the Pack, Las Vegas. Yeah, you said yes, sí. In Spanish.
One word.
Okay, one word.
Wow.
So, y en TikTok también igualito. @Leader of the Pack, LB. Lo pueden encontrar. Okay, so Antonio, we're super happy to have you today.
Thank you. So am I.
Yeah, no. Thank you for being here. And todos los que quieran buscar sus redes, búsquenlo, es increíble lo que él hace, it's incredible what you do. Y sería eso por hoy. Esperemos que les haya gustado. Compartan el video, el audio del video en Spotify, a los que les gustan los perros, a los que no les gustan los perros también compártanlo. Y esperamos que les haya gustado este episodio tan especial que hemos preparado para ustedes.
yo quería agradecer también a Vane, porque Vane ha sido una intermediaria para poder llegar a Antonio.
Sí.
Ahora es una persona muy conocida. Y Vane tiene una familia con él, porque he estudiado con él. Así que gracias, Vane, por tu presencia, por acercarnos un poco a Antonio, para tener esta entrevista que ha sido súper interesante, divertida. Y ya tenemos que ver cómo hacemos para en algún momento armar un podcast. Y de la siguiente vez vamos a hacer 5, vamos subiendo.
4, ahora 5. We have to go to Peru. To meet
I'm down.
everyone.
Let me know. We'll plan it. I'll go. I like to try.
No, but you have to go to Ecuador too.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
sure.
Just I'm down.
De todas
Yeah, we
maneras,
would love to have you here. We would love to have you here sometime. Yep.
That would be a lot of fun. I'll definitely have to touch up on my Spanish though, for sure.
Yeah, don't worry. Don't worry, it's okay.
All right.
Gracias.
So, bueno, termina de cerrar, Carlos.
No, gracias a todos. No se olviden de compartir nuestro contenido, de seguir a Antonio. Ya le dimos todos los detalles de dónde encontrarlo. A Vane también. Tu cuenta, Vane, es
Adobe Lifestyle.
Adobe Lifestyle.
Y compartan nuestro contenido. Lo pueden encontrar en Spotify, Instagram, YouTube. Vamos a seguir con este tipo de entrevistas. Algunas de entrenadores que, como Antonio, hablan inglés, y vamos a tratar de acomodarnos para que ustedes puedan acceder a ese contenido. Es un poco más difícil, pero estamos tratando de hacerlo. Y nada, espero que se hayan divertido un montón, que le hayan pasado genial, que hayan aprendido de esto que hemos podido conversar con Antonio, y nos vemos en el próximo episodio. Gracias. Chao, chao.
Gracias. Chao.
Gracias. Bye.
Muchas gracias por escuchar el episodio de hoy. Recuerda seguirnos en nuestras redes sociales y si tienes alguna pregunta, déjanosla en los comentarios. Nos vemos la próxima semana para seguir hablando sobre lo que necesitas saber acerca de tu perro.